We begin today's wrestling news and rumors video with a bit of news regarding last night's edition of Friday Night SmackDown, which featured the return of live fans and that thunderous crowd. While SmackDown in general over the past several months in the Thunderdome had been doing better than Monday Night Raw in terms of viewership and ratings, last night's episode of SmackDown with the fans in attendance drew an average of 2.185 million viewers, which is a big and noticeable increase from last week's show. This is definitely good news for WWE, and the crowd returning did make a difference in the appeal of SmackDown this week, and hopefully the trend continues in the coming months for not only SmackDown, but especially for Monday Night Raw, that has been faced with record low ratings recently. And let's hope with the crowd coming back and WWE putting in a bit more effort, things will improve for WWE in general in terms of ratings and viewership. Regardless, last night's SmackDown was a pretty great show, and there's no doubt that Roman Reigns is one of the biggest reasons why SmackDown has been doing so much better than Raw in terms of ratings recently, as the head of the table has just been on another level since he returned last year at SummerSlam and subsequently turned heel. We now have a big rumor heading into tomorrow night's Money in the Bank 2021 pay-per-view event, and more so a major return that is reportedly going to be taking place on Sunday's show. As many of you are likely aware, over the past couple of weeks, there has been speculation that Becky Lynch was finally going to be making her long-awaited comeback to WWE at Money in the Bank 2021, after Becky had spent the past few months training relentlessly for her return. And as of today, new backstage reports have revealed that Becky Lynch will likely in fact be in attendance at Money in the Bank tomorrow night, although as of right now it is still uncertain as to how WWE plan for Becky Lynch to be utilized at Money in the Bank, with some speculating that Becky Lynch will simply return and give a special promo for fans at Money in the Bank, whereas others are sure that Becky Lynch will somehow get herself involved in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Regardless of how WWE plan to have Becky Lynch return, it seems very probable that she will come back tomorrow night, and by all means whether Becky Lynch remains on Monday Night Raw after her return, or is instead moved over to Friday Night SmackDown to freshen things up, there's no doubt that Becky's presence will increase the buzz in the WWE's women's division, and it will not be long before Becky is once again a women's champion in WWE. The Fiend Bray Wyatt has unfortunately been missing from WWE television since his loss to Randy Orton at WrestleMania 37, with The Fiend's continued absence from WWE being one of the biggest talking points surrounding the company right now, because with how incredibly low the Monday Night Raw ratings have been following the showcase of the Immortals, you would think that it would be a priority for WWE to bring The Fiend Bray Wyatt back, one of the company's most popular superstars, to help add some excitement and buzz to the brand. However, that has not happened up to this point, and it has gotten to the point where some fans were concerned that The Fiend Bray Wyatt could have been following in his brother Bo Dallas's footsteps and get released or fired unceremoniously this year. With that said, one of our sources has mentioned that WWE have no plans of releasing The Fiend Bray Wyatt, as Vince McMahon is apparently able to recognize Bray Wyatt's value to the company. And the question that most fans have right now is quite simple: when is The Fiend Bray Wyatt coming back to WWE? Well, while there have been some rumors that The Fiend Bray Wyatt could be returning tomorrow night at Money in the Bank, this really is not news, as for pretty much all pay-per-views following WrestleMania, there has been some speculation that The Fiend could have returned at all of those shows. So it really does not seem too likely that The Fiend will be back at Money in the Bank. Although with WWE recently hyping up Money in the Bank, and that there will be some big surprises and major returns on the show, perhaps The Fiend Bray Wyatt could be one of those planned returns. However, it is far more likely that The Fiend Bray Wyatt will be coming back on an episode of Raw in the coming weeks, with one report revealing that The Fiend will be back before SummerSlam, and there is even a chance that The Fiend could appear on the Raw episode after Money in the Bank. But with Goldberg scheduled to return on Raw this coming week, it's hard to imagine that WWE would have two huge returns on the same night, and the company will likely plan for The Fiend Bray Wyatt to return a bit later. For those of you unaware, The Fiend Bray Wyatt sent fans a message on social media a couple of days ago, after a fan had sent Bray Wyatt a tweet saying, "We miss you, Bray, forever and always you are our leader," with The Fiend responding with this message, "I miss you guys too, believe me." Clearly, The Fiend Bray Wyatt cannot wait to return to WWE, and whether he comes back tomorrow night at Money in the Bank 2021, the episode of Raw following Money in the Bank, or simply on Monday Night Raw in the coming weeks, The Fiend Bray Wyatt will be a welcome sight for most fans. Not surprisingly, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, was a major part of last night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown that featured the return of the live fans, because Roman Reigns and the Usos teamed up in a huge match against Rey Dominik Mysterio along with Edge, with the intention here to add some hype to Roman Reigns' Universal Championship match against Edge tomorrow night at Money in the Bank. And by all means, WWE certainly did just that, as Edge stood in the middle of the ring with that Universal title on hand, with Edge confident that he will walk out of Money in the Bank 2021 the new Universal Champion. Regardless, it was clear that all 6 superstars were very happy to be performing in front of a thunderous and lively crowd on SmackDown last night, and the fans were absolutely energized. However, clearly Roman Reigns got a little too affected by the crowd last night on SmackDown, because for those of you unaware, during a commercial break after the 6-man tag team match had ended, when the crowd started to chant some negative things at Roman, the tribal chief Roman Reigns flipped off the crowd, which was not caught on television but was recorded by lots of fans in the arena, and Vince McMahon is reportedly not too happy about it. While WWE are apparently wanting to push the envelope every now and then, and stray away from that PG era, Vince was not happy about Roman Reigns visibly flipping off the crowd, as it does not coincide with their PG guidelines whatsoever. Although one report has indicated that Roman Reigns is not in too much trouble behind the scenes, and just received a warning from Vince not to do it again, as it is pushing the envelope a little bit too much at this point. For those of you unaware, former tag team champion Davey Boy Smith Jr. returned to WWE on last night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown before the show went on the air, as Davey Boy Smith Jr., aka Harry Smith, wrestled a dark match on the blue brand. While some fans were under the belief that this was more of a one-time kind of return for Davey, that is reportedly not the case whatsoever according to new backstage reports. It has been rumored as of today that Davey Boy Smith Jr. has re-signed with WWE, and his dark match on SmackDown was just the beginning of Davey's comeback in WWE, with the company even posting Davey Boy Smith Jr.'s post-match interview on YouTube, detailing Davey's return to the WWE after being gone for nearly a decade. Harry Smith is now 35 years old and seemingly in the best shape of his life currently, and it definitely will be interesting to see how WWE plan to utilize him on Friday Night SmackDown moving forward. The resemblance to his late father, the British Bulldog, is certainly uncanny, and hopefully WWE have some worthwhile plans for Davey Boy Smith Jr. in the coming months.